Hello, everyone. This is Rob Golfi with REMAX, the Golfi Team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show, Niagara edition with Brian Hogman and host Tim Dennis.
Yes, we welcome in another week as we look across the incredible world of real estate. You know, you don't think from week to week that it's going to change any more than it's already changed, yet every time I talk to you, something different has happened over the past week. Take me through this past week, Robert.
So the one thing I see a lot is, I'm not going to pinpoint, but a lot of realtors always say this is a good time to sell and it's a good time to buy. And I'm going to be straight up. It's really not that good of a time to sell. Okay?
Hold on a sec. I've never heard this before.
No, exactly.
Never heard this before.
You know what? To be honest, it is not a good time to sell unless you have to sell and you need to get out and get out at a certain time, or you bought something else. Now, if you buy and sell in this market, you basically buy and sell in the same market that you're in. But if you're looking at selling and there's no urgency, I would not personally put your house, up for sale unless you have to sell. And that counts for divorce and probably relocation and estate sales and everything else like that. So the people that have their house for sale, don't put your house off the market. Sorry for those other realtors. But anyway, I'm just being straight up.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. But it is a good time to buy though. This is a buyer's market. It is a good time to buy. What was that? Sorry?
That's all the time we have for the program.
But what I'm trying to say is, everybody's always saying it's a good time to sell, and that's what the public says. You agents always say it's a good time to sell, it's a good time to buy, and you never hear any agent say it's a bad time.
Well, it's so true. Yeah, I've never heard that come across your lips before.
We're positive, but I mean, like I said, if you call us, I ask them, say, hey, listen, if you can wait. I just went on one in Niagara Falls, and I said, guys, if you can wait till the new year, I would, because I don't think you're going to get the action, and you're going to date your listing now. And they said, you know what? We'll wait, and we appreciate that advice. So there you go. They didn't have to sell. Well, they do have to sell, but they don't want to take a drop in their price. And right now, the market is kind of it's hibernating. It's soft and it's quiet, and the buyers that are buying their buyers are out there, but they're looking for deals.
But they're lowballing. I have a client right now that's in one of those predicaments where they bought without this condition of sale. They have the sale, and now they're getting offers 15, 20% lower, and they're just fishing. Yeah, right? They're just fishing.
I have one that's $900,000, and they came in at $812,000. I said to the guy, I go, look, this is worth that. And I says, we're willing to negotiate, but we're not going to even sign this back. So if your guys want this, you're going to have to come up quite a bit higher to show me that you're serious.
I think the buyers know they have a little bit of the ball in their court right now.
A little edge. Unless they got a guy like me negotiating on the seller's behalf, they're not going to beat me.
Because it is a good time to buy, though. Let's be clear. It is a good time to buy, though, right now.
It is. So I just want to let everybody know, if you're buying, this is the time. I would get out there. If you're looking at buying, don't wait till the new year, because it will climb. And I wanted to show, Tim, you've got it in front of you, and it shows right here. In Niagara Falls, we bottomed out in December of last year, right? In Niagara Falls, the average sale price was $574,640. Then, and in the new year, in February, it jumps from $641,000 to $679,000 in March. And see how see where I tell you that's when you got to put your house on the market. Right. But there's a short window there, and you don't know when that window is. So that's when you go. Now, St. Catharines, again, they bottomed out in December at $572,000, and then in March, it didn't kick in until March, but but it actually started February, $619,000 to $641,000, $654,000 in April. And then it actually jumped a little bit in July. So, guys, I'm telling you, if you're looking at selling, you got to put it up in February, March. That's when you have to get your house on the market. Welland had a little bit of a different delay. It bottomed out in December of $517,000 last year in December. And then, but it didn't pick up till April. And then in April, it jumped to $643,000 and $638. So people probably went to St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, and I didn't like it there. I mean, no, the prices were too high, so they went to Welland in April.
And they realize now we got to commute all the way to where
I got to go a little further. But I just wanted to let everybody know that timing is everything. I follow the market so closely, just like Brian follows the mortgage industry and everything else on that. But the one thing I want to say is that if you don't have to sell right now, I would hang on. A friend of mine I grew up with, parents' house, estate sale, I said, Frankie, and I said, hey, Frank, wait till the new year.
Yeah.
And he's listening. He's waiting till the new year. Why lose? Maybe you can probably maybe $20,000 to $50,000 more.
Well, I think too, especially with the way interest rates are headed. We got the Bank of Canada meeting come up in December. Likely, very, very, very likely a pause again, not a drop. Definitely not an increase by the looks of things. And third week of January, statistically the most depressing week of the year. So I think we'll end up seeing interest rates and a lot of people finally get off that fence, because if we see the rates drop Q2, everybody's going to be jumping back in, right? So that's going to push up.
Brian, you don't think there'll be a drop this time? That'll wait until the spring?
Yeah, on the variable rate, so just to be clear on that too, the variable rate will likely stay the same, but fixed rates right now are dropping. So because fixed rates are kind of like the future, they're saying like, what does it look like in the future? And the future is saying, that's the bond market, that we think rates will be lower. So we're seeing those fixed rates go down right now, not exponentially, but 0.1, 0.2%. So I think you'll see those continue to drop over the next 30, 60 days as well.
So as a mortgage guy, Ryan, are you suggesting that people who are re-upping very soon still go with a variable, or is the fixed going to be attractive enough for you to bite at that?
Great question. Again,
As a consumer myself, either I would lock in for maybe just a year or two the most.
Yep.
A year, and I think within a year you're going to. My opinion, everybody's got their opinions, right?
Yep.
But I do feel that it will drop sometime mid to the end of next year. It has no choice but to, because we're not building any houses. Builders aren't selling any houses, and we need to get houses built out there. So the only way it's going to happen is if the interest rates drop, and the government knows this, and they know, and they're going to do a slow drop probably starting mid next year.
Well, and it might not even be that slow. When you look at a typical interest rate drop from the increase that we've seen, a lot of times you will see a drop of up to 2 points within 12 months.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the economists are calling for that too. So to answer your question there, Tim, too, I would say if you can afford the risk, right? If in your budget you can afford the risk, I like the variable right now. People are jumping back into variable rate mortgage on renewal, or exactly what Rob said there, a 1-year term or a 2-year term. The 5-year, hard to take right now.
I locked in on a bunch of them, even at 2.5%, 3.5% years ago, and they're coming up. So my renewals on some of these properties I own are coming up at the right time when the interest rates is not going to be at 6.5%, 7%.
Yeah.
So I'll be lucky. But
if this real estate doesn't work out, Rob, you'd be a great mortgage broker.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Hey, he's recruiting. He's recruiting. That's it. Oh my God, this guy doesn't stop. But no. I remember taking risks like that during the 90s when the mortgage rates were like 13%, and I just said, I'm just gonna go open.
Were you going open or 1 year?
I went open 1 year, and boom, because if I knew if the mortgage rates were gonna drop, I like everybody was doing that because we knew it couldn't last that long, and it slowly dropped. And I remember how much of a difference it made in my income and my expenses per month. I'm telling you, I feel for the people out there that their household income is just eaten up by the mortgage interest. Well, I get it. I understand that.
And the other thing too is that the investors are going to jump back in, because right now you can't cash flow on a property because investment's so high. When that rate starts to come down another 1 to 2 basis points, now people who do have money sitting in on the sidelines, they'll be buying property too, which is going to push those prices up.
Yeah. So there's a story I want to talk about, and how a guy took some bad advice from a realtor from out of town. Okay. And so what happened was I went on an evaluation on a condo. And so I went in, and I knew this guy had this condo listed at almost $2.5 million, over a year ago, like during the good times, like good times. And I went in, and so he just had it last listed at 2.25. So is
this in Hamilton?
This one's in Hamilton, but I got one in Niagara Falls I want to talk about too. But this one in Hamilton, and I go in there, and I knew that what I was going to tell him wasn't going to be good. He's not going to like, you know what I mean? Like here's the thing is, there's two choices out there. There's one that I can take the listing at 2 million or 2.1, whatever, and spend a fortune on it and get zero return on it, or get zero, whatever you call zero response. Or I just say, hey, I'm not taking it, because zero is zero. Like, you know what I mean? Regardless, like, I'm not going to spend money on a losing horse, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. So when I went in there, and I didn't want to spend too much time there, because I knew as soon as I told him the number, he wants me out of there real quick. So this $2 million, let's say $2 million condo.
What does a $2 million condo look like?
It looks like $1 million condo. So anyway,
oh boy.
So I went in and I said 1.6 million. And I said, you're pushing. I said, you're even pushing it at 1.6. But I was being gentle at 1.6. I wanted to say 1.5, to tell you the truth. I was being gentle. I was being nice. I don't know, I should have done that or not. But what happened was, he did get an offer during the height of the market for $2 million. And I said to him, you know why you didn't take it? Because your agent at the time came from Mississauga and listed this house, and he's in his mind, he's comparing it to Mississauga condos.
Right.
And he thought $2 million was too little. But I told him, I says, if you had me as your agent, I says, I would have pushed you, and I made sure that deal didn't die. I would have said, that $2 million, you'll never see it again. And I would have told the buying agent on the other side, say, listen, you hang on to that buyer. My guy needs a couple of days to think about it. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
When I know my buyer is making the wrong decision and accepting an offer, and he should be accepting it, I tell the buyer agent, listen, give me a couple more days. Let this guy absorb it and think about it, because sometimes they make the mistake. And sometimes they'll go to their friend and say, hey, yeah, I got $2 million. I don't think it's enough. And their friends will say, are you crazy?
Right.
You should have taken that offer. So then I get the phone call the next day or day two later. You know what, Rob? You think those people are still around? I go, damn right they're still around, because I sat them on the fence to make sure they don't run away.
That's awesome.
But anyway, that's how it is. And there was another condo in Niagara Falls. These guys wanted too much money. I didn't want it. Like, there's so many condos for sale in this Green Vista building in Niagara Falls. I just it's just, you know what? People want too much money at the wrong time. You know what I mean? Like, when the market was hot, that's when you should have did it.
Well, I think that's why you need a good realtor, because it sounds like a lot of the information is just dated, and dated could be 2, 3, 4 weeks old.
Yeah.
Right. From what you were telling people a week or 2 weeks ago is different from what you're telling them this week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a good agent, like you say, has a finger on the pulse there. And then people, if they're expecting, not let alone last year's prices, some people are expecting 3 months ago prices, and that's not up to date.
You know what? I buy for the long term. You're like me.
100%.
Buy, hold, and
that's why I do say it's always a good time to buy.
Yeah.
I know it sounds terrible,
no.
but
I buy and hold. I buy and hold. Now, if I buy and hold some properties, I know I got some properties I overpaid for. I don't care, because you know why? I'm holding on to it. It's long term. You know what? In the long term, like I said, house prices double every 10 years, and sometimes way more than that, depending on the area, the time, and everything else. So, guys, I'm going to tell you, for short term, you got to be careful. For long term, but right now, if you're looking for a $2 million condo, I got one that maybe for under 1.5 you probably can get.
I do want to see that.
Yeah. But anyway, Tim, what's your thoughts on that, since you've been speaking so much?
Well, I know I've just been taking it all in and taking notes, actually, as I was going. So it's the Golfi Real Estate Show, regardless of what we said before the break. Welcome back. Rob Golfi with REMAX. The Golfi team is here. Brian Hogman is with us from Mission 35 Mortgages, and I'm Tim Dennis, thrown into the mix just because I'm here. Now, let's talk about mortgages for a second, actually, because a lot of people may be going in to get a mortgage re-up, or they'll be getting a mortgage for the first time. And if you're not familiar with the terms, what is the difference between a mortgage broker and, say, a bank mortgage specialist? Because to the average person, it sounds like the same thing, Rob.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a story. Years ago, many, many years ago, not that long ago, when I was 22.
A couple years ago.
So I went in for a mortgage, and my lawyer says, Rob, you don't need to go to a mortgage broker. He goes, and back then, you had to pay the mortgage broker. Now it's not like that. The bank pays the mortgage broker for bringing them the deal. But back then, so I went to the bank, and I met with this guy at the bank, RBC at the time, and he was fairly new mortgage specialist in the bank. In my opinion, I'm thinking. So I sat there and I showed him everything I had and everything, and I more than qualified to get a mortgage, but he couldn't comprehend a guy. We were probably the same age. And he couldn't comprehend that I owned
all the properties,
a lot of the properties. And in his mind, he's going, "How the heck does this guy accumulate these properties?" And I'm barely struggling trying to get, even like a garage to buy or whatever, So anyway, he couldn't comprehend it. He denied me. I was so upset. Do you know, I forget, people's names and things, but this is one guy I never forgot.
You remember?
You know what? I was traumatized by that he said no to me. And Tim, I'm telling you, I was like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? So I went back to the mortgage broker. I got the mortgage that I needed and everything else like that. The one thing I found in that there is a difference, and Brian here is, I'm just going to say there is a difference between a mortgage broker that you hire that doesn't belong to the bank and a mortgage specialist that works in the bank. Now, I'm going to let Brian take over the difference, but he says it's a good breeding ground to get mortgage guys.
Oh, for sure. I think many mortgage brokers start out at the bank, and really it comes down to this because I used to work for a bank. I worked for a major lender. The Big Flying S was a great place to learn, but you only have one product to sell. When you work for the bank, you are selling one product. They have their own products, policies, procedures. If you do not fit in that guideline, you cannot do the mortgage. And the bank does not teach you what other lenders will approve, right? Because they're not going to go out and teach their staff the other competition. So when you do talk to a mortgage broker, one of the value adds is that they work with 40, 50 different lenders. They work with trust companies, credit unions, the different banks. And I equate it to like a brain surgeon, right? The brain surgeon knows everything there is to know about the brain. The mortgage broker knows all about mortgages. They're not the one you necessarily want to talk to about RSPs or a car loan or a bank account or RESPs. They might know a little, but they know all about the mortgage. Whereas when you go into the bank, I equate it like the GP, the general practitioner. They know a lot about a little. Or a little about a lot. Sorry, I got that backwards, right? They know a little about a lot. Yeah. So, and I also think, too, it's important for people to know, Rob, you just touched on it, too, the cost. I think there was a preconceived notion that mortgage brokers charge a ton of money. I only go to a mortgage broker if I'm in a really bad spot. But it's just over the past couple years where Canadians are choosing mortgage brokers over the banks now in market share. Because mortgage brokers, we don't charge a fee if we're getting someone a better rate. We get paid a commission from the lender.
Well, what happens is, I'll tell you, when you go to a mortgage specialist at a bank, you put your application in, and you look at it, and they say, "Oh, sorry, you don't qualify." Sometimes they say you may have to come back a year and see what happens. But if you go to a mortgage broker, they're going to work with you right then and there and say, "Here's what we need to do to get you approved for a mortgage." So, and I'll tell you one thing. There was an agent on our team. She went to a bank, one of the big fives or whatever, and they said to her, "No, you don't need a co-signer." Okay, she was happy about that, but she went to a mortgage broker. And our other mortgage broker here, and
pardon, you try to slip that in there, Rob?
So anyway, the mortgage broker said, "No, you need a co-signer."
Right.
And she said to him, "No." The bank said no. A week or two before closing, the bank says, "We need a co-signer." Yeah. Do you see the experience, the difference? So she went to the mortgage broker. The mortgage broker told her exactly what she needed, and she went to the bank. The bank said you don't need one, so she went with the bank. But at the end of the day, guess what? 2 weeks before, she had to call her father and have a co-sign. Now, it would have been nice if he knew that maybe 2 months before.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's, like, I'm telling you, the experience a lot of times usually people, when they leave a mortgage specialist, they get their start from the bank, which is nice, which is good, and they become a mortgage broker on their own. Yep. And sometimes they team up with you, and I
think it's no different than you going in and telling someone what their house is really worth. You're telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And I think what mortgage brokers do a great job of, a great mortgage broker, is the plan. Like, I know we've helped people before, been pre-approved for a mortgage. Let's say 12 months ahead of time, we're talking to them. They can't get approved, so we'll do a whole credit repair for them. We'll set the plan in place, and maybe we know they can't buy for 12 months, but you're putting the plan in place. But you're, like you say, you're giving them, I've seen people think they're pre-approved for X, and we've told them lower.
Yeah.
Because there's two incomes, people. There's what you tell your friends you make, and then there's what you really make.
Yeah.
Right? So we always say, if you end up doing the pre-approval based on what you tell your friends make, if it's a difference between 5 or 10 grand, you know, oh, you make 81,000 and you tell people you make 90. Well, that $9,000 difference is a huge difference when it comes to approval, especially if the bank reps, which I find happens a lot, they don't check the documents.
Right.
Right? If you're not getting the verification, then you're getting a bad expectation.
Yeah, I find there's three different points. There's what I think I make, what my boss tells me I make, and what I actually make. So there's actually three.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That's true.
Yeah. So the fiscal update that happened from the government this past week, it talked a little bit about mortgages, because we've talked a lot about this in the last year, is that one of the situations that you run into when looking for a mortgage is that they will give you the mortgage test. You know, how much of an increase could you stand if it happens? If it goes up a little bit, are you going to default on your mortgage? That kind of thing. Did they change that at all in this fiscal update, Rob?
Brian knows this really well about mortgages and having the amortization. No, what
it was the renewal rate on the stress test. Yeah. So the big change that's made, Tim, which is absolutely awesome, I'm singing hallelujah over here, is because essentially what was happening with people who came up for renewal, they didn't change the stress test on purchases. You still have to qualify for 2 points above whatever the contract rate is, which is very high. But on renewal, what was happening is people who got mortgages at 4, 3, 2, 5, and they were qualifying at 5%. Now, in order to go shopping and let's say, let's check out another lender, see if they got a better rate, I've got to qualify at 7, 8, or 9%. So what lenders were doing, not all, but some, it was like renewing with a gun to your head, because as the borrower, I couldn't move my mortgage when it was up for renewal because I didn't qualify anymore because the rates were so bloody high. So now the lenders were putting these renewal forms and saying, oh, yes, Brian, we will give you the best renewal rate. It's 7.2%. Here you go. Right. And they know you can't go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. What this amendment does, and I think it says it's voluntary. So hopefully there's enough pressure for everybody to adopt it. But what this says is that people who come up for renewal and they've paid their mortgage, they've done a great job, they're allowed to shop now, and they don't have to qualify at the new stress test when they go to renew it, so long as it's...
And they can take their CMHC insurance too.
Yeah.
You were going to get to that.
It's an insured part. It's okay. It's the insured mortgage part. It's the uninsured part, which if it's not CMHC insured, it hasn't made a change there yet, but if it's insured. So this is a great opportunity for Canadians, which I think was needed for people to be able to go shopping when they come up for renewal, because you shouldn't be handcuffed.
Can I jump in and ask a real silly question? You mentioned that this is voluntary on the part of the lenders, right?
Well, when I read this in the news article, this Ottawa, the charter that they've come up with, there was a note that said that, it's not my reading of an understanding says it's not 100% in play yet, but they were proposing it on a voluntary measure. Is what it says.
So that means if you know about it, you ask about it, you might be able to get it. So if you don't know about it, then guess what? You're gonna lose.
I hate to say it, but I think you're right. Actually,
so
until this gets more notoriety, and I think it'll get more wheels and steam. Yeah, that's a great question.
And I think if a bank doesn't give it, you can go to the press. And you know what? They're not going to want that bad press.
I say you ask for it no matter what. Like the other thing it says too, for people in financial hardship, you're supposed to apply to re-amortize your mortgage, like to make it longer. If you make your mortgage longer, it'll make your payments smaller if you're getting financial trouble. Technically, you're supposed to be able to approve for it. What this also says is that if you ask for it, if you're in trouble, they should give it to you.
Which, yeah, they don't want Canadians to lose their house. They don't want them to sell their house. They want them to keep the house.
Right.
And it's good if they can. You know what? Here's the thing. You can if it's tough right now. Let's say you've paid 5 years or 8 years off your mortgage. Well, maybe you can go back to the 25 years and temporarily, and then you can shorten it up again once the interest rates come down. But there's opportunities out there, and I know 5 year difference on an amortization from 20 to 25 it doesn't really make that much of a difference, does it, on the monthly payment?
Not huge, but it can be the difference between like being able to pay it and not being able to pay it, right? Like you could be $300, $400, $500 depending on what the mortgage amount is, but you could have started at 25, and because some people will have significant equity over the past 5 years, you might be able to bring that 20 to 30 years. Now, all of a sudden, you're talking
that makes
some
a big
savings,
difference,
right? So, it feels like you're going backwards, but at the same time, it's temporary, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's temporary for a year or two, rates go down, your payment
you can
will go
shorten
down
it up. You can shorten up the amortization back to 20 years. That's not a problem.
I always end up saying the bank will happily take more, but they'll never take less, right?
Yeah.
So if you set up your payments on a low payment with 30 years, you can always make an extra payment.
Yeah.
But you can't. It's very hard to go and say, hey, can I pay less this month?
Yeah.
I've tried that. It doesn't work.
I think a lot of people have.
It doesn't go over well. What is a buyer's love letter, Mr. Golfi?
So what happens is this happens, quite often, especially if it's in multiple offers. So what you go in and you submit your offer, right? It usually happens in multiple offer situation. And let's say you have a house that's $500,000. And you got 4 offers on there. You go in at $505,000. The other 2 offers or 3 offers are higher than your $505,000. You come in with the letter, like a letter saying, you know what, we really love the house, and my kids would be perfect here. They would love the bedroom that you decorated. The kitchen's great. We are looking forward to our Christmases and everything. You just giving the information, and they probably met the family because the family came in. So a lot of times, sellers, depending on who they are, either they say there's 2 ways. They either take their offer, even if it's lower, especially baby boomers. They have, homes paid for. They have a lot of equity, and they just want they want the one person that wants to raise their family there just like they did. And so they'll go with that letter. And then there's the other part where the agent says, hey, listen, our clients loved your letter, and they really want you to have the house, but you're going to have to come up another 10 or 15,000 to get the house. And that happens a lot. But that letter does sway the buyer to a certain degree. But not every buyer is like that. Not every seller will let it go for less. The main thing everybody wants is the highest price in the shortest amount of time. But that letter does help. But
it might get them another kick at the can, like you said, right?
Yeah,
so
they get a second
letter.
chance.
Yeah, I'm emotional about it, but bring your offer up.
Yeah.
Give me a higher offer now.
Yeah.
I want to sell it to you, but I don't want to lose money.
So this lady, I guess in Calgary, she did a letter, and I think she got the house. She put a nice love letter. And I don't know, Tim, you ever write love letters?
Nothing I want to read on the air, but yeah. They certainly didn't get me a real estate deal, I'll tell you.
No. When I write a love letter,
they may have lost me a house in the end, but that was a divorce a long time ago.
That's
well, I think the love letter, it's not supposed to be to the realtor, right?
Yeah,
it's supposed to be
when I wite a love letter to my wife now, she says, "Okay, what do you want?" Back then, she loved the love letters.
She's not offering.
She goes, "What do you want? What do you want?" Back when I was in my 20s, she said, "Hey, oh, you're so nice. I love you so much."
Well, we've gone from the real estate show to the mortgage show to the lovelorn love letters on the air. Our Mission 35 mortgages. Where are your offices, Brian, just before we move ahead?
We have actually offices all over Southern Ontario, but 2 main offices. One is downtown St. Catharines there on Welland Ave. And then we have one downtown as well, Hamilton on 59 John Street South. Just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Golfi office here.
There you go. There you go.
I want to move into a story that my wife and I have this disagreement wherever we have lived. We walk into a place and there's beautiful wood leading up the stairs. The handrails are wooden, or the trim is wood, and she wants to paint them. I don't. But that's just me. Now, as a real estate guy, when you're showing a house, do in this day and age, in 2023, do you paint the wood trim? What do you do?
You know what? I get it. People love wood, but I think some wood has to be painted. So, for instance, this is a true story. I had a client that had their house up for sale. They couldn't sell it, and they struggled. And it was like the house was probably built in the 80s, and they had wood trim and and wood doors and everything else like that. So they didn't sell it. So they called the agent. The listing expired. The agent called me in. I mean, not the agent. The seller calls me in and says, "Hey, what do you think?" I says, "Your house is priced right, but I says you just need to spend maybe a couple $1,000s." I says, "Paint all the trim. Paint it all."
That's so cheap too.
Yeah,
right? Like
it
that
is.
is like such a cheap change.
So paint all the wood trim, and you will modernize the house, and it will look good. And they go, "Really?" Yep. So anyway, he went on it. He took my advice. He painted the trim. And I think about 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, he called me up and said, I go, "Wow, what a difference." So we photographed the house, boom, 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 put it up for sale, and it sold within a week. No, it was no problem, and he did well on the price. Now, I went into a house just recently, wood everywhere, and the ceilings were wood, the staircases were wood. There was too much wood.
Did it have the wood paneling? Remember in the basement, the wood paneling?
Everything. Yeah, there was just way too much wood, and so I you're trying to be subtle about this with sellers. Sometimes they take offense, and I said to them, there's the circle of people that love this is small, but the circle of people that love more modernized with white paint, there's a way bigger. Now, I said, keep some of the wood, so you get that small circle of people that would love it, but then you paint a lot of the wood, which you get the mass population that love it. So you don't lose. Now, if you just keep it all wood, like you look at pictures online on this house, it's just too much. I wouldn't even want to go to it. Yeah. So I'm that type of guy that says, you know what, I'm not interested. Too much wood. And but the thing is, if they softened it up with the wood, they would actually get more people into the house, and they probably would have a better chance of getting an offer. Again, it's like you eliminate a big group of the population that may not even look at that house. So painting, wood trim, and stuff like that, I'm all for it. It has to be tastefully done. Same thing with kitchen cabinets. Like these people, that I saw, they did paint the kitchen cabinets, and that kitchen looked fantastic. But they should have done more of the house. Now, you ever see those houses where they have like the cedar wood trim outside, and it's gone black?
Yeah, you see a lot of those in the 2.5-story Victorians, right? That sort of triangle peak area, right?
Now, like. To me, I look at that, it's like, it looks like it's kind of old and stuff. People think, oh, that's cedar. That's like the way old cedar goes to. But I think you got to paint it, like, or spray wash it, or do something so it looks either red cedar or faded or whatever. But it just, I think the cleaner is the better. Like paint whatever on the outside to a certain. I've painted houses. I know. I know a lot of people don't like it. People did it on the 2.5-story Victoria. I painted the brick. Yeah. I painted one in Niagara Falls, and the whole neighborhood loved it.
We did that at a cottage actually, where the inside was all wood, like wood everywhere. And I don't mind the wood look, but like even for a cottage, but we painted everything. Yeah. Did the trim white, which was wood, and it changed it. Well, it made it feel more airy, made it feel bigger, and it just transformed. And such a cheap renovation. Like I could even do that. I'm just painting everything, painting all the wood. Yeah.
Well, in the 80s or 90s, people were buying houses from the Century Homes, and the people painted them, and they're scraping it, scraping the paint off. I'm not, you know what? I understand the Century Homes. You know, that's fine. But I'm talking about houses that built in the 80s and 90s that have this, wood trim that you got to change it. You got to change it. The regular 2-story homes, 3-4 bedrooms, and you gotta change the look inside, and you'll do better on your sale price of your house if you do that. People like painting the kitchen, sometimes you got that kitchen that has that pinkish
I thought those were coming back in style.
The bleached wood oak cabinets.
What color do you do trim, and what color do you stick with then? Like
white. You can't go wrong with white. You can't go wrong with white. Don't go black trim. Don't do this on the inside. Just go white. If you're, hey, if you like the wood and you want and you're happy with it, you stick with it. But if you want to sell your house, paint it. Just do it. You'll do better on your price, and that's it. Listen. You know what? Everybody waxes their car when they want to sell it, right? You don't sell it dirty. You don't sell it just coming through the mud pile there at the old sand pits in Niagara Falls. Remember that, Tim? I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, off of Portage there, going to St. David's. Yep. But you don't go to show something that's going to be ugly. You want to clean it up, and I think painting the wood is in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases you should paint.
I painted aluminum siding once. Entire house, aluminum siding, rather than spend a ton of money by replacing it. I painted it at a fraction of the cost, and it's still going. It was great.
I did that on one of my properties. I just remembered now, as you said that. I did that on my triplex in Grimsby. I painted the siding. I wanted to look really different, and it turned out beautiful.
What about a wood deck? Would you paint a wood deck?
Would I paint a wood deck? Yeah, I would paint a wood deck if it was the right. Yeah, if it was right, I would paint it white.
Not white.
I would paint it white.
As long as we sell it in the same day.
I like white wood.
Rob just lost all his credibility there.
There you go.
But no, I would paint the deck white. Yeah, I think white is the color.
I had a property where we actually just painted the floors.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing that because the floors weren't so amazing, and it was and it worked out to be okay. It was like an off-white cream color that we actually painted.
And it makes a big difference. Yeah, no, I think it's it's good.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
And this always gets a debate going for people who are buying or selling houses. Popcorn ceilings. The old popcorn ceilings. Is it worth scraping it all off and getting rid of it, or is it too much? In terms of just so people will like the house? Because I know a lot of people walk into homes that have those old popcorn ceilings from the 60s and 70s, and they say, oh, I hate this. I know other people who've spent the time and just completely eliminated it. Where do you stand on that, Rob?
Yeah, it dates the house. That's the 80s when they were building, the 80s for sure. We just had one. The house is fully renovated. One section of it had popcorn ceiling. It was a little section. It wasn't bad, and I was okay with it. But if the house was filled with popcorn ceiling, and then I would say try to scrape it off and skim the ceiling, a new layer of drywall coat. Now, people, if they don't know what popcorn ceiling is, it's the ceiling where they sprayed it, and it's a little bumpy. It's like a little...
It's like bubbles. It's kind of like
that's what popcorn ceilings are. Now they call it California ceilings, where it's kind of scraped, but it has a little bit of a design.
Well, it's almost like a plaster.
But popcorn ceiling is an 80s thing, and I would try to scrape it off if you can.
Is there anything related to like asbestos in that? In those?
No. I actually just bought a building, and we're looking at it. We have asbestos tiles. We're going to drywall right over top of it because either we take it down, we got to hire a company to take a look at it and everything. We're just gonna
because it's fine if not touched. Like I know there's absolutely zero issue with it, but I think those popcorn ceilings they have it. This is a misconception on my part, but it reminds me of that. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a time when like that shouldn't have been done.
Right.
No. Yeah, well, it shouldn't have been done for aesthetic reasons. I want to finish up with a story that I know is much more serious. I know, and you and I have talked about this, Rob, in weeks past, about the waiting times for hearings for people who have a dispute between landlords and tenants. And these disputes can go on a long time and cost people on both sides tons of money. What's going on here?
Yeah, so somebody's put out a thing online, excuse me, to have a petition signed to have the government like change this. Like, it's still not a lot. Like, even 3 months is too long. Even 3 months. They need to have hearings faster. But the thing is, when you apply to evict a tenant, it costs money. right? And there's thousands of people out there are applying. They have the money. Like, I don't know what's going on. The money's there to pay for the, I guess what they call them, the judges or whatever, who makes the decision on whether you're good or bad or, whatever. But they have the money resources. I don't know. But so what's happening is a lot of that money is going elsewhere to pay other stuff that the government screwed up probably. But they need to change this. There's a lot of hardship with people out there, and mental stress. People are going crazy out there and they don't know what to do. They got people not paying their rent and stuff like that. They got to change it. They got to streamline this process. It is becoming an issue quite a bit, and people are taking advantage of landlords. And I know there's bad landlords out there, guys. People that are renting, I get it. There are some bad landlords, and there's some good landlords. But the thing is, it's mostly landlords taking tenants to the landlord-tenant board and trying to retrieve rent. So let's say a landlord gives you 60 days notice to move out, right? And he sold the property 60 days. He's not moving out. So now maybe that landlord has to sell because he needs it because he's got some financial issues going on. So that was his investment, just like anybody else has an investment. You cash out, you're ready to get out of it. You don't want anything to do with it anymore. So that tenant can stay there and cause a lot of problems. It's a lot of stress. Like we've heard about fights and people. Look in Hamilton, Stony Creek, somebody got killed, and then another family took them the 3-4 months longer to move in. They owned it, but the tenant didn't move out, so they were parking their trailer in the driveway. Say, hey, we're living here. We have no place to go. So it's causing a lot of problems. The government's not responding fast enough, and that's why there's a petition out there to expedite, this thing, trying to get things better for the landlord-tenant board. And again, if they expedite things faster, it's good for the tenant too.
100%. Because I think, to your point, it goes both ways. Yeah, because there's tenants out there that aren't doing the right thing. There's landlords not doing the right thing as well too. Excuse me. Both parties have to wait here and have to wait for something. If there could be an issue with a building, if there could be a renovation where there's a dispute and it takes 60 days or 90 days or 120 days to in order to resolve, that situation does not get better.
No, especially
and emotions get involved, and then other things get involved. Like you said, the stress, the anxiety that gets involved here has a massive rippling effect here. And I think with the fees, hey, up the fees. Go ahead and up the fees, because if you're a landlord and you're going to do it, up the fees, but make sure they're allocated to the right resources and hire more people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, therein lies one of the major problems, because like every other government agency, they're short-staffed. Right. And that's always the excuse. Well, there's such a long waiting line because we just don't have the staff. So this is where we have to reach out to the government and say, look, this is what we're paying you for. Stop saving money in places where we don't want you to save money.
I think this could be a huge revenue stream for the government, right? And if allocated appropriately, right? Yeah. We real estate is a huge part of the Canadian economy. Talking too much on the mortgage show today, but it's a huge part of the economy. We could charge more fees on this, allocated, and then you'll get more people, because there are an exceptional amount of good landlords. You'll lose landlords because of this, and then you'll end up losing, and then that will probably drive up tenants and up rental rates, because if you lose a lot of these mom and pop rental properties, well, then where do they go? They have to go to the bigger corporations that are going to charge more and run a much more efficient stream.
We have to go. We're out of time for this week. Brian, thanks for being here as always. Rob, good to talk to you as always, and we'll reconvene this thing next week, same time, same place. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.